All right, so basically learner profiling, hold on a second. Oh, what's going on? What happened? Okay. Hopefully it doesn't do what I think it's going to do. All right.
Has your teacher told you that you need to paraphrase more effectively? In this video, I'm going to show you 5 key tips on how to paraphrase like a pro.
Stop. Computer's acting weird. Hopefully it doesn't. Okay. There we go. All right, so learner profiling. What is learner profiling? Learner profiling is basically gathering information about your students. Gather information about your students' want, needs, and expectations. That's basically it. Okay. And it's something that it seems was pretty simple, but most teachers don't do it. Some teachers do it because they don't think they have the need to do it. Some teachers don't do it because they don't see any value in it. But learner profile is pretty much the core in what you teach. In fact, we should never teach unless we know something, who our students are. Why are they there? Why are they there? What their wants, needs, and expectations are. What do they want? What do they need? What do they expect? Right? And all three of those things are completely different. What they want, need, and expect. So it's the core of data-driven, making data-driven decisions, which as educators, that's what we're supposed to be doing, making decisions based on data. That's why we do formative assessments and summative assessments, and we're supposed to be looking at the data and making the most appropriate decision for our students. So the argument is, if we are data-driven and we're making data-driven assessments, why aren't we encouraging, enforcing, and mandating the teachers that they do learner profiles? Carol Ann Thomason, in her work related to differentiated instruction, speaks about the 3 variables needed to differentiate classroom. And those 3 variables: the student must be ready, they must be interested, and you must consider the learner profile. They must be ready, they must be interested, and you must consider the learner profile. So how do you determine readiness? Well, by knowing their want, needs, and expectations. How you determine whether they're interested? By determining their wants, needs, and expectations. And then how do you what is the learner profile? Well, the learner profile is their want, needs, and expectations.
Okay.
Right. So.
Okay, but how would you? I don't want to jump ahead, but when you speak of needs and expectations, so I've seen, for example, I've seen instructors maybe give out or ask people to write, what are you expecting from this class? What do you want to get from me? What do you expect from me? And that's all good. But when it comes to needs, do they need to be assessed? Can a student actually, definitely he'll know some of what he needs to know, for example, or what his needs are or her needs are. But I don't know. I guess we'll get into that after a while. But
yeah, we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. And as a clinician, that again, what somebody wants and what somebody needs are completely different, and then what they expect is also very different. And the needs part is where we as professionals look at what they really need, right? To provide them the support so they can thrive, so they can meet their wants and their expectations. Some of it is making sure that we can actually service the student or the patient, right? If we can't, we refer them out. And the same thing in education, we refer them out, right, to someone who actually can meet their wants, needs, and expectations. Before I dive into how we do it in the classroom setting, which is, I think, is a lot similar to a clinician. Let's talk about motivation, which you probably already know a lot about. So, I'm having a brain cramp here. So, how many different types of motivation do you have? Can you tell me about?
Different types of motivation.
How many different types of motivation is there?
I don't know. One of them is going to be a bit, maybe there's something related to social, communal, maybe something personal, maybe I don't know.
All right. And let me get my let me get my brain together for a second. I'm having a major brain cramp. There's actually 4 types.
Okay.
Why am I having a brain cramp right now? All right, I got the 2 that people don't know, but then there's 2 that people do know, and I'm having a brain cramp. Give me a second, it'll come to me. This is so weird.
No worries, we can come back to it.
No,
So
no,
what are
no,
the ones
no,
that
no, no,
what
no,
are the
no.
ones that you know?
No, because I like to start with the ones that everyone knows first. I'm having a brain cramp. Give me 1 second. It'll pop in my head in a second. No, that's not it. Oh, I'm going deeper into not remembering. I just gave my students a lecture on this in the last semester.
What is it? Is it the external regulation and
No,
trajected, that thing?
no.
It's not incentive and fear.
No. I can't believe something that I talk about all the time. I'm having a major brain cramp.
Is it the 4 R's?
No. Hold on, just give me a second. This is why I like have my notes. I don't have my notes with me right now. I can't believe this.
Well, we can look it up. I mean, you know, you have the whole.
No, because it's
Big
not
notebook.
gonna come up because it's, hold on a second. I got the 2 right here. That's the ones that people don't talk about. Then there's
Well, tell me what the 2 are, and then I'll start throwing words out at you.
so you have so the first 2, or the 2 that we don't really think of, is integrative motivation and instrumental motivation. Okay, and now people think they're aligned with these other 2, which are
Like deal with okay. Integrative.
is it external, internal? Oh. Let me make sure I'm right here.
Intrinsic or extrinsic,
Thank you.
maybe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Told you I
Intrinsic.
just throw words.
Thank you. Woo! Intrinsic and extrinsic. All right. So when you look at intrinsic and extrinsic, right?
Right.
This is the 2 motivations that people always talk about: intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation. They're not aligned with integrative and instrumental. They're actually quite different. All right. So you have four types of motivation. You have intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, integrative motivation, and instrumental motivation. And when we talk about language acquisition, intrinsic motivation, just like any other type of intrinsic motivation, but related to language acquisition, it's about learning the language. Because this is what TESOL was about, language learning, right? It's about learning the language because it makes me feel good, right? It's an internal, I want to learn how to speak Arabic because it would just make me feel good.
Okay.
All right. It's my bucket list. It's just something I want to do. Right. Extrinsic motivation is you're learning the language because you want to make somebody else feel happy. Right? My mother wants me to be able to speak Arabic because it's her mother tongue, and she wants me to, we were born in America, and she's mad at me because I haven't learned how to speak Arabic, and she wants to be able to speak to me in Arabic. Okay. So I'm going to learn Arabic because this is going to make my mother happy. So that's extrinsic. Integrative motivation is learning, when it relates to languages, is learning the language so you could be around people and socialize around people, right? I want to learn Arabic because I want to be able to know what's, I want to know what people are laughing about at work. And I want to be in on those conversations, and I'm the odd man out, and I want to, I want to be a part of the team. I want to learn Arabic, to be a part of the team.
What is this one? What type of motivation is this one? Integrative. Okay, so they're trying to be integrated.
They're trying to integrate into the society. I want to learn Arabic because I want to stay in Saudi Arabia for the next 30 years. And, this would be important for me to stay here and be with the people. I want to learn Arabic because I think it'll make me a better Muslim. It'll make me a better Muslim to be with the people. And okay. Now, this is different than intrinsic. A lot of people think intrinsic and integrative are the same. They're not. Because intrinsic, if I learn Arabic, I'm not doing it to be around other people. I'm doing it just because it makes me feel good. Okay? Just to know the language. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say extrinsic. The other person is the one who feels the is the change is there. They're the ones who will be pleased. While in integrative, you're the one who you benefit anyway, or you feel better from.
Instrumental, you're learning the language because you know what that is, right? You want to get, you want to get the teaching job, all right? Or you want to, you want a higher salary, or the girl says you can't marry me unless you learn Arabic. So there's some type of it's not extrinsic, because extrinsic is making somebody else feel happy, feel good. Instrumental, you're making yourself feel good, but it's via something else, right? I want the higher salary. I want to be in Saudi Arabia, not necessarily to be around people, but I just want to be here, right? So I learn the language, right? So these are the four types of languages when we talk about language motivations. When we talk about language acquisition, it's important as it relates to the learner profile to understand that students are sitting in your classroom, and the same thing. And the reality is the same thing applies in your clinical classes, right? You have students there for all the four reasons, right? They're there. Absolutely. Some people want to be doctors because it'll make them feel good. Some people want to be doctors because it make their mama feel good. The old Indian joke, I'm going to be a doctor because my mama wants me to be a doctor, right? Some people want to be a doctor because they want to be in that crowd. I want to be a doctor because I want to be in that esteemed crowd, right? That's integrated.
Actually, I taught physiotherapists, and I often would get, we always ask this question, why did you choose physiotherapy?
Yeah.
And I would honestly, it's like 30-40% would actually say, oh, I want to be a physiotherapist. I had, an uncle or a cousin or someone who used to do therapy. I was interested. But the rest, like 60% of them were like, well, I wanted to do medicine and I didn't get the grades. So here I am.
Right.
Now, when you think of that, I
Right.
don't know what's motivating them. It's not an extrinsic, that
But
an
it's
intrinsic.
it's a motivation. It's a real motivation.
They have nowhere else to go.
I got nowhere else to go, baby. I'm right here. I still get the doctor in front of my name. Hey, I was like that in college, I'm like, look, I want this degree. When I was in undergrad, I could care less about having a bachelor's degree. I only did it so I could become an army officer. I had to have a degree. That's the only reason I wanted to. I care less otherwise. So I had this, C's get degrees, 2.0 and go mentality, because I really didn't care about acquiring knowledge and being an intellectual and all that stuff. That changed obviously when I became an educator. But it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Sometimes I tell them things like, well, your grades got you here for a reason,
Right.
and maybe, give it a try, but they won't keep you here. Whatever you've done in the past will not keep you here. It will not help you succeed. You need to find something. You need to find a reason for being here. And, sometimes some of them would transfer out. First year, the subjects are the same. So they have that ability, they can move, which is fine. It's excellent. But although most students actually transfer into our department, very few of our students actually transferred out of our department. And I think I try to say, when you see that happen, then you think what really gets them in the end is they see that it's a career that pays well. This is one of the things that starts after a while, is that you can actually,
and motivations can shift. They can shift. Yeah.
And so that becomes their thing. I want a clinic.
Right.
I want to do. I want that. So
yeah, and so it pays well. So it went from
my grades got me here.
Intrinsic to instrumental, really quick.
Exactly.
So,
Switched. Yeah.
And would you say the way you deal with certain students, by knowing their motivations, you were able to deal with them differently if you knew their motivation? Absolutely.
I got to know everybody on a personal level.
Right.
And I would know who's sitting in the back reading that, Jim Clancy novel, and who's texting, and I know why. I know, like, okay, I know that good English, the repetition in Arabic and English is boring for her. This guy, okay, I know him. He studies the last week. He'll make it. These I'm not worried. I'd worry about the ones that I don't know much about and who don't open up too easy. Those are the ones I worry about, because I can't get a grip on how to get them involved. As much as I call on them and try to make them feel like they're part of the class, you still feel that they're distant. So yeah, those are the ones I'm more concerned about.
So yeah, I mean, and then that's the value of the learner profile. That's the value of the learner pro. It's listed. Anytime Carol Ann Thomason talks about the learner profile, she's not learner profile, but differentiation. She talks about the learner profile, and and she says readiness, interest in the learner profile. I argue that she just needs to say the learner profile, because if you know the learner profile, you know when a student's ready, if they're interested, right? So the learner profile is key, is essential, is critical for us to be able to do those things to help students get to where they need to go. Whether it's differentiation or personalization, or understanding the student is drowning, the student's okay, ringing the alarm when it's appropriate. So in a language center where you may not have 16 weeks, or you might not have the 32 weeks with a student, right? How do you get that information? So what we say is that you should have a beginning, before you teach a group of students, you should have a learner profiling meeting with them. And it should be a one-on-one meeting And it should be a series of meetings as you go through their course. So let's say it's a 5-week course. You would have a series of meetings in a 5-week course where you basically do a lesson with them. Right. So you would write it out just like when we talked about lesson planning, you would write that interview out the same way, right, with the student. And it could be the same process for every student, depending on which outcomes you're looking for. Here, it should be systematic, right? It's just not, we're not just asking a question, you know, what do you want, what do you need, what you expect? We're not asking those questions. Here, we are being more, we're applying a method to it. You know? So if they want to be able to write a paragraph by the end of the course, we'll start off by asking them questions about you know, why they want to write it, what's the purpose of it. And then over the course of the experience, we actually try to get them to write a paragraph. Right? So we can figure out, can they hold the pen well? Do they understand subjects? Do they understand what a clause is and phrase? And so we basically write a lesson plan for each interaction, and depending on how long your program is, will dictate how many interactions. So you can figure out and get that data from them. So the first meeting should be a meeting about their wants. Right? Yeah. So in that, we ask them who they are. Who are they? Right? And we get them to communicate that. Either writing it, drawing it, depending on the age group, it should all be age appropriate, right? But telling us. The second meeting should deal with what they need, what their needs are. So what they believe their needs are, and then challenging that. So I need to be able to write a business email. Okay, let's pull up the laptop and try to write one. All right. And this is without you helping. That transaction should tell us a lot about what they need in relation to what they want. And then the final thing is what they expect. And at this point, they should have already had some classes with you or in your center. And they can talk to you about their expectations. This is good for you as a businessman. You know, so you know, I expect this, and this. I expect to be able to do this, and this. I expect you to do this, and this. Right? And then you can have a meaningful conversation about whether whether they're overreaching in their expectations, whether it's their expectations are realistic. Yeah. I know. That was an hour ago, right? Okay. Thank you. Soon, 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes. It's important. So important when we're doing the learner profile meeting that the chairs are set up interview style. All right. Not to make the student feel uncomfortable, but to be intimate enough where they want to share information with you. And normally what we do in the TESOL session is we ask the question, well, how would you get certain information out of students? So that's normally something that's in the portfolio, right? How would you get, what information would you want to know about students, and how would you get that information? So I'm going to ask you, obviously, we're not doing a traditional course. I'm going to ask you, what information would you want to know about students?
I'd want to know, first of all, their well, I want to know their wants, needs, expectations. I want to know what it is that they're coming to do, what they expect from us, from me. I want to know what type of background they have in whatever we're doing. So if it's language, I want to know how good their language is, or how much training they've had in the language itself. Definitely, I want to know what their motivations are for learning the language, because of course you can use that and it can be both a challenge, but it can also be opportunity, depending on the type of motivation we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how much time they have, also how much time they're spending on this. There's a big difference between somebody who's working 8-hour shifts and coming to class, for example, and somebody who's, who just comes straight for this, and because he's trying to get his IELTS score up or something, or he's trying to move on in college. So that person will dedicate more time. These are the things. I'd also like to know about their interests, maybe a little bit about themselves. That will help me build context. And yeah,
So
around that would call ballpark. Yeah.
So let's pick interest. How would you get that information? So how would you write that lesson plan up to get that information, to get their interest?
How would I write that lesson plan up? Well,
So no, you don't have to be detailed, but how would you get that information to find out their interest? What are some of the things you can do?
Okay. Well, I'd ask them outright, what do you do in your spare time, or what do you do? What are your hobbies, or what sports do you play any sports?
Let's say you had a 15-year-old college bound. What else could you do? Outside of
15-year-old
asking?
college bound. Okay. Outside of asking, I can tell them to write about it. Write
Okay,
about something you like doing.
okay.
What did you spend your summer doing, or what do you do on your spare time or your weekends?
Mhm.
I can ask them, for example, what would you, if they'd like to watch something. For example, if you had, let's say we're gonna watch some sports highlights. What sport highlight would you like to watch? Or that can also be turned into something. Maybe I can ask them, what's your favorite? Who's your favorite athlete? What's your favorite book? Or where do you like to hang out?
What about a survey?
Survey, straight up survey. Yeah, I mean, you can do that. Put all your questions down and have them answer it. Yeah,
What
that would work
about
also.
what about you know having some pictures and you point, so you show them like 3 pictures
Mhm.
of something and ask them to point to the picture that they're most interested in or they're least interested in. Yeah, that's another strategy, right?
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is that the interview should be multifaceted in how you gain information. We don't just want to rely on surveys, rely on questions, because a lot of times some people will go, I don't know.
Mhm.
So rely on questions, and that's for me it's not hard, but for a lot of people find it very difficult for them to talk about themselves, especially about their wants, needs, and expectations. I remember years ago, before I got into education, I was going to be a police officer. I wanted to go in law enforcement. And so one of the things when I was doing the psych part, you had to write, describe yourself. And I wrote this, a page worth about who I was. And the person, I guess the recruiter, I don't know what their position was, who took my paper said, most people don't write this much about themselves. And I found that strange until later on in life. I start dealing with people and being a leader and a manager, and I realized people don't like to talk about themselves. So the reason why this is part of the course, because you might have people who, number one, cannot describe using language. They don't have the lexis or the vocabulary to describe what their interests are. right? So for me, you're multilingual. So, but for me, I only speak English. So,
Right.
you know, if I'm dealing with somebody who's an A1, A2, I can't ask them questions,
Right. Right.
right?
It's
I
different.
can't
Yeah.
really get them to write. So now I got to be more creative. And that's the whole point of the drill is what happens if a Russian speaker, you gotta be more creative now. And because you still need to find out, still need to get their wants, needs, and expectations and build that learner profile up.
Mhm.
So that's the whole key. We can't just rely on verbal or writing. We got to find some creative things we can do to figure out what their wants, needs, and expectations are, because they might not be able to communicate with us. Okay.
Mhm.
And so that's a whole, actually, in the TESOL course, that's a whole big thing that we go through, a whole lesson, and we do a lot of micro teaching and role playing behind that. But because since we're online, that's all I want to cover there. Okay.
But what about like when it comes to this part? So the objective of this profile is not actually, I mean, part of it is of course learning and stimulating learning and creating rapport. And but you also have a lot to gain from it in the sense that you could sort of start to visualize what the needs of that person are.
Whether I need to make adjustments, differentiating what I do, do I need to
Right.
go out and get something else, add another learning aid? Does this person going to work well in a group? Uh, Placement. Should I put them with Mark or should I put them with Sarah? Right? Should I put it with Muhammad or should I put them with Ahmed? You know, so you're able to make a lot of important decisions that can save you heartache and help the student get to that role, to their wants, needs, and expectations.
Okay, so then my question is because of that, that if you know the language of the person, the other language that they speak,
Mhm.
you have a second communication channel that can help reveal a lot of the because you can assess them and you can sort of understand them if you want to know their level, right, their English level or their lexis ability and etc.
Right.
But if you want to know them, because now you're trying to understand them
Yeah,
and
I
you
want to
use
know
their
them.
language,
Right.
you can also use their language and communicate with them. And that actually, if
Absolutely.
you're
Absolutely.
familiar with the culture, it's a lot faster and easier and more
Absolutely.
complete.
Absolutely. And this drill is mainly for those times when we don't have that language. We want people to say, hey, look, you might have somebody from the Ukraine there. What are you
Right,
going to do? You might have,
right.
you might have somebody who speaks, from Iceland, they're native Icelander. What are you going to do then? You still need to get there wants, needs, and expectations. You still need to build that learner profile. You need to figure out whether they're there for intrinsic reasons, extrinsic reasons, integrative, instrumental, so you can get them to where they need to go.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's much easier if the person speaks, we speak the same language. And the real key is to make, so we're making data-driven decisions, right?
Right.
Decisions based on data.
Gotcha.
Right. So what I want to do now really quickly is I'm going to go through a couple, because we got 14 minutes left. I
Yeah.
want to go through a couple of the questions on the test.
Okay.
And then I figure I'm not going to waste your time. The rest of what we don't get through today,
Mhm.
I'm going to do a video.
Okay.
All right. And if
Right.
the video and if you have any questions, then you can shoot me a WhatsApp and then we can jump online and I can answer any questions. All
Okay.
right. So let's go and dive into that. So let me find it. Why did it do that? That's weird. Oh, that's really weird. Why did it do that? Let me do this again. Let's go.
There's an organization called TESOL.org.
Yeah, there's lots of them.
Okay, so it's not there's no real official one or something, or is this the
No. There's no official. There's no official body that controls TESOL.
you have plans for this Christmas?
Say that again?
You have plans for this Christmas?
Nope. Nothing. Working. So much work to do at this new job I took. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna be the Grinch. Oh, speaking of that, I got to order my kids' stuff.
There you go.
I gotta do that tonight. Ah, they're gonna kill me. All right, we didn't go over phonology. I normally bring in another person to do that. But here's the first question. What is phonology?
Mhm,
You know what? Instead of sitting, you know what?
mhm.
Let me just make a whole video of this.
Okay.
Let's play around with some of the stuff. What is phonology, you know?
No.
The study of speech sounds in a particular language.
Oh, phonology. Okay. Speech sounds.
What is phonetics?
Well, they always say the phonetic spelling is the spelling of how the word should be pronounced.
Right? The study of
Right.
speech sounds.
Wait a
So
second.
phonology is the
Phonology.
study of speech sounds in a particular language. Phonetics is the study of speech sounds.
Mhm. Phonetics is just the study of speech sounds.
Mhm.
Does it
Uh,
matter what language?
So phonology is the study of speech sounds in a particular language. Phonetics is the study of speech sounds. Doesn't matter the language.
All right.
Okay.
But I can basically use them interchangeably, right? I can say the phonology and of Arabic and the phonetics of Arabic. What's the difference?
In a particular, the study of speech sounds in general. So phonetics is the study of speech sounds in general. Phonology would be you're targeting a particular language. Potato, tomato, tomato, potato, potato.
But
So
the phonology of a
one
language.
for not one, you're just doing the sound, just sounds in general, speech sounds in general. The other phonology is you're doing speech sounds in a particular language.
Speech sounds in general, so globally
General,
for
yeah,
all languages.
yeah. So you're studying, so a phonologist is studying a particular language like in English. Where a phonetic, somebody who's doing phonetics is doing sounds in general. They can dig into all sounds and talk and compare and contrast. You follow me? Whereas somebody who's just your phonology could talk to you just about one language or a particular language. Make sense?
I'll work on it though.
Okay.
These sciences sometimes they have this overlap. That's just
Yeah, there's always there's an incredible amount of overlap. What is a phoneme?
a phoneme.
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 Mhm.
All right, that has to do with phoneme. That's Phoneme, right? Phoneme.
Yes. Yeah.
The sound of a particular syllable or a word or something like that.
Smallest unit of speech sounds in a particular language
Okay.
that is significant in meaning. the smallest unit of a speech sound in a particular language that is significant in meaning. So it's a lot of that in Arabic, right?
Smallest unit of a language. So like in English, it'd be like or a.
Right, that has a particular meaning.
It has a meaning.
Yeah. In English should be a. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So the question, next question is, teachers should have a solid background in phonology because as a teacher, it helps you in explaining the difference between spoken and written English. Also, it can help you as a teacher in explaining to the students the differences between sounds and how the sounds of English are produced. So that may clear up phonology versus phonetics. All right, what about this? The term received pronunciation refers to a specific, the term received pronunciation
Received.
received pronunciation
Mhm.
refers to a specific form of spoken English used by the majority of newsreaders on radio and television in Britain. So the BBC English.
Received. What's that?
Yeah.
Received what?
Received pronunciation. So BBC, the BBC uses received pronunciation. In fact, that's one of the reasons why the BBC was created. Because people, as you know, people in the UK speak all different types of English. All right.
Right. Mhm.
So the BBC was created to have one standard pronunciation and what they call received pronunciation. In America, we really don't do it as much. We try to hire news anchors who all sound the same.
Mhm.
So in America, you really won't hear a news anchor with a Texas accent. Oh, well, all the news anchors pretty much will pronounce in standard English. They're void of accents.
Interesting. I just thought all Brits spoke like that. Well, I knew there was Wales and Ireland and stuff, but the
Yeah,
UK.
you go, they got the Cockney, so they had a big problem in London at one point because no one could understand each other and they were all speaking English.
Okay. So is that like they're speaking what the classical form of the
No, they were
language, or is
speaking
that
different dialects and accents and dialects and that Cockney and all this stuff. You got, I mean, it's a diverse, it's a melting pot. So people were speaking all different forms of English. So that's why the BBC was created, to give people to speak a received pronunciation.
okay?
So here's one for you. How many different sounds are there in the English language?
Well, that's going to be a number.
24. 24 different sounds in the English language.
24 different sounds.
24 different sounds.
That okay, qualify that question, because if okay, so we have 26 letters, and then basically every letter or every vowel has 3 different pronunciations or uses. I can see more than that. Why is it only 24?
Listen, don't ask me. That's why I have somebody else do this part. If you want, you know what? You know what's better? I probably should have Dave do this for you. He's older now, but I could probably arrange it because I think you should know this stuff, and Dave can do it better than I. Because I run away from this stuff. I'm gonna try to have.
Dave
I'm gonna
versus
try to,
Dave.
yeah, Dave. I'm gonna try to have him explain. You probably can't do it. I'm probably have him make a video or audio on questions one. Not probably, I will on questions 1 through all the phonology stuff.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have him do that so he can explain why the answer is the answer. Right. It's like, yeah, 16. Which of the following underlying words has stress on the second syllable? Record, well, that's a nice record. They gave her a present for her birthday. That's an insult. They suspect him of the
Insult
crime.
president. Insult president.
Yeah. Which of the following underlying words has stressed in the second syllable? So the underlying word is record. That's a nice record. The underlying word is present. They gave her a present for her birthday. The underlying word is insult. That's an insult. The underlying word is suspect. They suspect him of the crime.
The suspect. Yeah. Seems like insult and suspect, maybe.
So it's suspect, D.
The
The suspect.
He's a suspect.
So yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have Dave do a video on this stuff because not my wheelhouse. All right, that's all the phonology part. Right. Grammar part. Which of the following best describes grammar? No, we did go over this. Which of the following best describes grammar? A set of rules to be memorized, a complex adaptive system, verb tenses, the way language should be used.
It was the second one, the complex adaptive system.
Absolutely.
Should not be
All right.
rules.
If you remember this from the first day, choose the answer. Which is not one of the things teachers need to know? Labels and examples, how to contextualize grammar, appropriate language, explanations of linguistical forms.
What was that last one?
Explanations of linguistical forms, or linguistic forms.
And the first one was labels and
Examples. So which one do we not need to know as teachers? Labels and examples, how to contextualize
grammar. That all makes sense. Those first three. What's the fourth? The fourth one with the linguistics.
Yeah,
that sounds a bit shady.
Yeah, that's the shady one. Yeah. All right. Which one do students need to know? Students, which one of these do students need to know? A student needs to know meanings, forms, and usage. B, linguistic explanations. C, phonological rules. D, semantics.
All right, so
A, meanings, forms, and usage. B, linguistic explanations. C, phonological rules. D, semantics.
Meanings, forms, and usage.
Absolutely. In the sentence, a dog bit the man on the leg, the is a verb, B, adjective, C, determiner, D, preposition.
What was the B?
adjective,
These an article. It's a it's a determiner.
determiner, yes. In the sentence, the man sat on the park bench. Bench is a noun, B adverb, C adjective, D pronoun.
Sat on the bench. It's the object of the verb. So it's an adverb.
No, the man
It's an
sat on
object.
the park bench. Bench
So
is
the man sat on the park bench.
yeah, so bench is a noun, adverb, adjective, or pronoun.
Bench is a noun.
Noun. In the sentence, the wind wafted over the lake. Wind is a noun, verb, adjective, pronoun.
What was, sorry, wind?
The wind wafted over the lake.
Okay. The wind whacked it over the lake. Okay, so wind is a noun.
There you go. In the sentence, there's a loud noise. There is a noun, adverb, adjective, or pronoun.
There is a loud noise. What's the question about? There is a?
There was a loud noise.
Okay.
There is a noun, adverb, adjective, or pronoun.
No, it's a pronoun.
Pronoun. My sister's house is a prepositional phrase, noun phrase, adjective phrase, verb phrase.
My sister's house is a noun phrase.
There you go. On the other side of the river is a verb phrase, noun phrase, adverb phrase, prepositional phrase.
On the other side of the river, it's a
Yeah.
prepositional phrase.
So you got all that. Let's scroll all the way down. What about this? Can is not used. The modal can is not used for ability, permission, possibility, obligation.
Oh, can. Okay, so can is not used for
Ability, permission,
ability, permission,
possibility, obligation.
permission.
Which one is it?
Permission.
No.
Permission.
Can I go to the bathroom?
No, but that's, I mean, you should say, may I go to the bathroom? I mean, obviously you can't
Sure.
go. But
No, not true. You should say may I go to the bathroom. But can is used for permission.
can is about ability, right? Can I go to the, yeah, can. I can go. I can do
I can
this.
get
Yeah,
it
it's
both ways.
ability. But is it
But
permission?
can be for can be used for permission. It can be used. It's obligation.
Obligation.
Let's just go down. What's your final sentence? All right, this is TESOL knowledge. All right, what about this? Okay, here's a good one. Students learn because we teach. A, linguistic knowledge is presented to them. B, they are pre-programmed to learn. C, teachers use correct methodology. D.
And we're talking about students, so we're not going back to that the infants stage. So I would say the closest thing would be the correct methodology. Then they learn.
No, you should have went back to the infant stage.
Right, that's innate, that they have the ability, that they
They are pre-programmed to learn.
pre-programmed to learn. But then how long does that
Because we
program
gotta
stay?
remember there's no correct methodology. There's no such thing.
Well,
There's
there's
no
better
best method.
methods.
There's no
There's no
best
correct.
method.
There's
Huh?
no best method. But there's
no best
better
method.
methods. I mean,
There are there's best practices, but you can't say there's a correct methodology, because what you may think is correct for one student or is correct for one student may not be correct for another. And it ultimately is not the teacher learning or teaching, it's the student that's learning. So the students have to be prepared to learn and willing to learn. So readiness, go back to Carl Ann Thompson's readiness, interest, and learner profile. So basically, we don't teach students anything, they teach themselves. Learning objectives should be A, teacher aims, B, learner outcomes, C, minimum achievement levels, D, linguistically based.
Learner outcomes.
There you go. I'll give you one more since it's already 10 after 7. A lesson objective will show A, what the student will do or say, B, what the student knows, C, what the student will understand, D, how the student will learn.
Okay. A lesson objective. What the student will learn. Okay, what's the first? Oh, sorry. Have
What
to.
the student will do or say.
I think it has to do with what the student will be doing more than what the student will be learning.
And why is that? Because all objectives are what? We went over this, right?
Yeah,
Didn't
we
go
did.
Smart.
We went. Yeah, smart.
Yeah. So all
specific,
objectives are
measurable.
smart. You know, all objectives are smart. So every objective, so it won't be know, it won't be understand or learn. It will always be, so objectives should never be students will be able to learn. It will be, so everything that we do is students will be able to do it or they'll be able to say it.
Okay.
All right.
You'd be surprised how many objectives I've seen with the word understand and know.
Yeah, no, that's not an objective. That's not a smart.
That's
It's an
more of an
objective.
outcome.
It's not a smart objective because it's not outcome based.
Right.
The purpose of the warmer is to A, engage the students, B, have fun, C, pre-teach new vocabulary, D, test students' knowledge.
Wow, it could be all of those actually, but let's see which
Well,
one is
what did we
better.
talk about?
We always talk about narrowing the funnel, crashing. We always
Right.
say about creating
Yeah,
a platform that everyone understands, who can bring them on board.
yeah.
So it's going to be one of those first two that you mentioned.
Engage
what
the
was it?
students, have fun, pre-teach new
Yeah.
vocabulary,
So engaging the student more. Of that.
engage the student, engage the student. All right, last one, I promise. Context. Context is we went over this. Context is A, topic, B, grammatical construct, C, situation known to the student, D, communicative activity.
Situation known to the student.
There you go. All right, I'll do some more random ones, and I'll get Dave to do an audio or a video, probably the audio nowadays. And we'll do that. And then you'll let me know when you're ready for the test. You already have the answers.
Okay, well, some of them at least, but yeah, as soon as all the material I have it, then I want to go over it because I
Yeah.
really just want to look at it. I've been looking at everything in segments, so I want to go over it. And I have this week coming up. Actually, I'm going to be out of town, but I'll do my best to catch up during that week since there's not really much to do. And then I'll be home next week. So probably after I get back home, I'll let you know. Okay.
All right, so I'll probably do like
During this.
10 questions per video, so each video not too overwhelming. You can
Okay.
consume. Then I'll put another one up, another one. You just let me know when you're ready to do the test.
Okay. Okay. All right.
All right. That's
Okay
it.
then. All right.
right.
Thanks a lot, Raymond.
No, thanks.
Okay.